How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another installment of Tech Support Thursday. This is ticket number 6. It's actually my second attempt to record this because my computer freaked out and then I lost the recording. I was about 10 minutes in and the computer decided to freeze or something. I'm not really sure what happened. My computer will go to sleep after a period of time, but that shouldn't be affected by me recording because if I'm actively doing something, the computer should continue to work the way that it's supposed to. So anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and restart. Again, at any point in time, if you guys have any questions on anything regarding the channel or any topics that I might be familiar with, go ahead and please leave a comment. I will answer that question in the next. I go through the most recent questions. I try to do 1 week at a time. So all that good stuff that goes along with it. In addition to that, I want to thank everybody that's been a recent subscriber, and for those of you that have been subscribed since day one, so my day oneers, I definitely appreciate the efforts. So the channel is definitely growing, and I'm just, every time I go onto the YouTube studio and I look to see how many subscribers I've got, it's always climbing. Very rarely does it ever drop, but when it does drop, it's usually 1 or 2, and there's a day or two later, I climb up and I've got 20 new subscribers. So definitely want to thank everybody for their continued support. That's really, it's one of the reasons why I do what I do. So there's a question that was direct message to me on Twitter from a follower who's also a YouTube subscriber, and the question was, what have I recorded and what are my goals in the next few months with YouTube? So I'm continuing to release the VMware Data Center Virtualization series, and one of the things that I've also done is I've gone through and started diving into VXLAN. I've done about 13 videos on that so far, and that's come up pretty well. I'm working on a couple different topologies for VXLAN. I got one that's specific just to VXLAN, and I'm working on another one right now that's a VPC high availability and service insertion with some firewalls and things like that. And then on top of that, I'm also working on some other capabilities for multi-site and some other options that are there. So I'm basically trying to take the VXLAN config guide for Nexus 9000V and demo it as much as I can. So that's basically where I'm at with that. So I have been reluctant in releasing videos outside of a particular flow of videos. So for example, data center virtualization, that's my main focus right now on releasing. So at some point in time I will release new content, but for right now it's I'm not sure if that's the best way to do it though. I mean, if you guys would like to see a mixture of things getting released, let me know, but that's kind of where I'm at with that. Maybe I'll even put a post and do you want me to release other content that I've got, and then just sporadically, one day I release something on VXLAN, the next day I release something on data center virtualization. I would like to go back through NSX for vSphere and redo that, as well as NSXT, but right now I've got my goal set on other things, like getting through VXLAN. So there was a comment listed last week from a long time ago, back when I was studying for my CCNA. The comment was posted on CCNA 4 Final Lab 01 intro, and essentially this is back when I was still studying for the CCNA. This is 2011, 2012. What I was using was Cisco Networking Academy, which was developed and presented by the Cisco Learning Network, or the CLN. And basically what ended up happening was there was this final lab. I forget how many labs it was, but it was a bunch of them that were designed to help you to reinforce your technical understanding of the concepts when you go take the CCNA. Because back then the CCNA was hands-on. There were a number of questions that you actually had to know what to do. It wasn't this 102 question, multiple choice, multiple answer thing that it is today. It was more hands-on, which I think is what it should be. My personal opinion on any certification program, even at the associate level, there should be some hands-on aspects of it. Because just knowing how the theory works isn't sufficient, in my opinion. Every certification vendor should come up with a certification exam that requires the candidate, me included, to be able to demonstrate proficiency in whatever it is that I'm working on. So That's my opinion on the thing. Because at the end of the day, the certification doesn't do you any justice if you don't know how to do any of the work. Just knowing how it works, okay, fine. That's the first step. But knowing how to actually make it happen is what you're actually going to get paid for. So that's just my 2 cents on that. So you may not agree, and that's okay. The comment is, I like the video. I like the info you put in, and above everything else, I appreciate the effort. I speak for myself only, and yes, I am watching all 15 videos. So I forgot to give that guy a heart. I heart that comment. There's another comment listed on Palo Alto Networks PCNSA passed when I passed the Network Security Administrator exam. Do I need to study firewall tuning for the certification? Is this topic included? I basically told the person to go and look through the blueprint to see what's actually listed and learn those topics, because that's your best bet, right? Every time I've taken a certification exam, I always look over the blueprint of what's going to be asked of me, and anything that I feel like, man, do I really need to study this? I'm probably only going to get a couple of questions. Anything that I choose not to study, for whatever reason, is an area where I'm going to expect to do poorly in. So, for example, if I don't need to study role-based access control for, I don't know, vCenter server, then if I get questions on that, I'm probably going to do pretty poorly on those particular questions. And that usually rings true. I usually do pretty poorly. When I took the VCP, I scored in the mid 400s. But that's because I've got a lot of experience with VMware. So if you're new to it, you may not score as well. But the bottom line is, anything that you choose to skip, expect to do poorly in that portion of the exam because you didn't study for it. It would be insane if you were to expect good results from basically being lazy in your studies. So I got a comment on SD-WAN 2, overview of how SD-WAN operates. Super video. I applauded for $2. So definitely appreciate anything like that where you can click applaud on a video and then you can give me a tip for basically is what that is. Somebody gave me a $2 tip for my efforts. So appreciate that. On Ticket 5, there was a comment. These episodes of ticketing are a fantastic way of delivering real experiences. Chat out. Very informative. Keep up the good job, Rob. I appreciate your comment, and that's really what these are for, right? These are meant to be a way for me to talk about what I'm doing, and for you guys to maybe get your questions answered. So yeah, good stuff there. Another question from Security Private VLANs. Do you know if there's a way to expand the private VLAN config to a switch that doesn't support private VLAN? Works with both VLAN and private VLAN traffic. I responded to this comment and I said I wasn't sure, but the bottom line here is, now that I'm rereading the question, if the capability of private VLANs isn't supported, then I'm going to go on a limb here and say that no, that wouldn't work. So look from a operational perspective. Let's say, for example, you have a 3560 with the latest version of code, latest iOS image, and that particular switch supports private VLANs, but it also has VTP version 3 enabled on it. And you have that connected downstream to a 2950 because that's just been there. What will end up happening is, I have not tested this, so there's a level of assumption with my comment here that because the 2950 doesn't support private VLANs, but it does support VTP, but not version 3 because it's so old, that even if you were to try to push the private VLAN config via VTP version 3, it's not going to make a difference. The VLAN information will propagate, right? But the rest of it will not. So in situations like that, it's kind of I don't want to say that it's a kind of a no-brainer that you should know that, because I don't want to ever assume or presume that you should know something, because I know when I was studying for a lot of certifications, even when I had passed the IE written exam before I had passed the lab, I would ask questions all the time, and sometimes they were like, you should know. My friends would be like, Rob, you should know this. Like, yeah, I know, but I'm asking because I want to say it out loud and see what happens. You know, have somebody like look at me kind of funny and then give me the answer. I actually kind of like doing that because then I'm it's a second level of reaffirmment that yes, I'm that is not supported. I'm not being crazy. I just my mental way of doing things sometimes. So my assumption is no. If you are trying to deploy private VLANs across a switch that doesn't support them, that the private VLAN capability will not be propagated. Tech support Thursday ticket 5. Hi, many thanks for videos. Everything is really helpful regarding CCNP and Encore and RC. From where you suggest me to learn except you, INE or CBT Nuggets? I said INE and CBT Nuggets both have put content out. I would say that if you're CBT Nuggets, I have not seen their actually their playlist, but I know it's done. But INE takes it deeper. INE will always take it deeper because they focus on the CCIE. That's a big thing for them, is still pushing CCIEs. So if you want to learn both, guess what? If you want to go look at CBT Nuggets and INE, go for it. I originally used CBT back when I first started going after the CCNA, and it became one of those things where I found out that at the time, CBT Nuggets didn't quite go as deep as I needed it to. So I ended up switching gears to INE. I've been with INE for a decade now, and I can't say anything bad about INE. Their paradigm has shifted, meaning that they are no longer holistically focused on Cisco, which is good and bad for some folks. But the cool thing about them not being holistically focused on Cisco anymore is that they bring other platforms to the table. You know, they've gotten more wide in there. And I was there in the beginning when that started happening, so I was one of the first instructors on their platform that was doing VMware content. Me and a couple of other engineers. So it's cool in that respect, but understand that there are going to be different levels of commitment made to training programs depending on what the training company's end state is. So if you're looking for, if you don't care about CCIE and you just want CCNP, I think CBT Nuggets will probably be the better way for you, because they probably aren't going to go as deep. They're going to be more focused to helping you pass the CCNP, where a lot of the CCNP content on INE is kind of recycled from CCIE Route Switch version 5. So, and I know that because I've been through all of it. So as soon as I saw some of the titles of the videos, I was like, this looks familiar. And so I watched the video, like, yeah, this is Route Switch version 5, because I literally watched Route Switch version 5 live when it was taking place back in 2014. So, not that it's old, not that because it was recorded so long ago that it's not relevant, because everything that's on the Route Switch version 5 blueprint is relevant today. Things haven't changed that much. So, actually, it's a funny story. CCIE Enterprise Infrastructure, or CCEI, which is my new CCIE, because they converted from Route Switch to Enterprise Infrastructure about a year ago. What they ended up doing was they took the Route Switch version 5 blueprint and they tacked on SD Access and SD-WAN. So they just added more topics to it. A lot of the same coverage needs to be done. So if you've done CCIE Route Switch version 5, but you don't have a CCIE, good. You've covered the majority of what you need to. Just focus on SD-WAN and SD Access and go from there. Another comment, I'm new to the channel. I'll be watching back for vids for sure. Definitely, please do VXLAN. It's in the works. I'm hoping to have that done within the week, but no guarantees on that. I've actually ran into a lot of problems with my lab, but I want to get done with the firewall insertion piece first. I'll make sure that that's working correctly, and then I want to do attempt to do multi-site. That'll be another lab that I'm going to build up. So for those of you that are, subscribed and you have been a member, there will be at least 2, probably 3 new topology files available in the member section, so that you can, if you want to play around with VXLAN, you'll be able to do that. And I will provide some initial configs, like the IP addressing and stuff like that, but I literally recorded the videos in the series so that there's no initial configurations necessary. I literally just give you the topology files. If you're a member, you'll be able to download the UNL files and then import them. The one thing I will warn you, and I'll talk about this in the VXLAN introductory video, that there's a lot, these boxes are resource intensive. So if you don't have a very powerful box to run these on, it's going to be difficult to run VXLAN at all. So just be aware of that. There's a comment on CCNP Encore and RC Video Series Introduction. Hi Rob, are you going to continue this series? Kind regards. I said, yes, I'm going to. The problem I'm running into right now is other things have just become forefront. I am going to continue the series once I've covered other areas that I would like, and it's going to happen probably pretty soon. I'm going to spend, I don't want to say a significant amount of time on that, but I'm going to do things a little bit differently. My goal is to, and I was having this thought the other night when I was having a hard time falling asleep, and I'm sitting here laying in bed, pretty much staring at the ceiling, and the idea that I came up with was, instead of continuing the series the way I had been, I am going to basically kind of like write a lab guide. And I'm going to write a lab guide that says, do this, this, and this on this particular topology. So it's going to be the same. I'm not sure if it's going to be a different topology yet or not, but the idea is that I'm going to come up with a new topology. This is my goal anyway. Come up with a new topology and basically write down a bunch of tasks that need to be done, and then the lab guide will be available for download in the member section. So if you're a member of the channel, you'll be able to download the PDF, and the initial configuration is basically just the IP addressing and stuff like that. But I'll go through and I will have an overview video of whatever the topic is we're going to cover, and then an actual demonstration of that particular feature, so you can see how it's actually deployed and stuff like that, so that it'll be a little easier to try to cover all the topics and kind of like a workbook style deployment. That's my goal. On SD-WAN 3, VPN's overview and SD-WAN controller setup. Great content. I wanted to pass on some lessons learned for those having issues with TFTPing the PKI.ca, which is the certificate file, to the vManage. For whatever reason, I cannot get TFTP to work with the request download TFTP command. Instead, I set up my CA to use HTTP. Below are the commands on the iOS router. Config T IP HTTP server should already be turned on. IP HTTP path flash : IP HTTP authentication local, username admin priv15 secret Cisco. And then on the vManage, via the CLI, you would type in request download HTTP : // Cisco, which is for the username and password, at 223.1.1.13 / PKI.ca. This worked for me when TFTP didn't. I wish I knew why TFTP doesn't work, but this is a way to get the PKI.ca there from the CLI. I hope that helps. So I'm going to go ahead and heart that one, if I hadn't already. There it goes. So that's that. Now on the vManage itself, you don't have to download the root certificate from the CA via the CLI. You can do that through the GUI, and that's how I did it. So I would go into the GUI, I would take the root certificate, and I would export it from the CA server, which is the router, and then paste it into the web GUI of the vManage, and then from there I'd be able to generate the certificate signing properties, the CSR, for creating the identity certificate for the vManage. I'd be able to take that, export it, basically just copy and paste it, and requested certificate from the CA, and then dump that in. I had the CA configured to auto generate or auto grant. Grant auto is the command under the CA config on the certificate authority, and it would automatically generate a certificate for me. I'd take that information back, and that would be how I would get the config to the identity certificate to populate. And then as you're doing that and you're adding the vBond and the vSmart, by automatically adding that, from what I remember, it automatically pushes that the root certificate down to those devices. So there's no necessary reason that I remember. Now, if you're on a newer version of code and things changed, fine by me. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. I'm just telling you how I did it, because I remember that was a lengthy process to remember. But there's a lot of steps that go into place with that, so just keep those things in mind. So there's a comment on vCenter distributed switch overview and deployment on DCB 19. Learning ACI, I needed to know about VDS for VMM integration. Thanks. So it's actually something I'm going to be learning here in the near future is ACI as well. I don't have any way of demoing it because the ACI simulator that I did have somehow got corrupted. So not sure how, but maybe copying it back and forth too many times had an effect. But right now I don't have the ability of downloading it from Cisco's website anymore. I don't have the entitlement available. And I know you can do, I believe it's through DevNet or developer.cisco.com, but that's just a pain. So I'm going to watch the videos, take some notes. I would love to learn ACI in detail because I think it's cool. But, so yeah. I'd love to go get my NP in data center, but like I said just a couple moments ago, the certification is pointless if you can't actually do the work. So, kind of it's kind of my conundrum. Get certified because you want to know because you understand how the technology works, but you can't actually you can't deploy it because data center hardware is hard to come by. So that's kind of my conundrum. There was somebody decided to on SD-WAN 7 templates overview single edge vEdge sites to go through and basically put timestamps on where I'm talking about the different capabilities. Thank you for that. You didn't have to do that, but thank you for doing it. They made it easier for you guys to click through what's going on. On ASA Basic 001, the initial configuration setup, the comment was, excuse me, but how to download Secure CRT? Can you give me the link, sir? Okay, so I have a very, very specific point of this. If you can't Google something, don't bother asking. I responded with Google that exact same question. It is a paid product. So here, I'm going to be real with you for just a minute. Don't take it as arrogance or anything other than the fact of don't be lazy. There are a lot of people out there that will ask me for links. Okay, don't ask me for links. If you ask me for links, I'm surprised I didn't actually delete the comment because, well, that's just laziness. I don't like dealing with lazy people. If you want to gain access to something or if you have a question about something technical, sure, I'll be happy to answer that. Like, how do you do this in Secure CRT? You know, I see you're doing something kind of cool. How do you tab in Secure CRT or whatever the question might be? That's fine. I will have no problem answering that question. But if you're going to ask me for a link, don't be lazy. Go Google it. Simple as that. Anyway, enough said. On DCB 20, deploy virtual machine using vCenter server. I'm a big fan of your channel. Keep up the content. Keep the content flowing. Any chance you can do a video on how to prep the network nexus for NSX, specifically around Geneve, encapsulation, best practice, etc. Yeah, I can come up with something. I'm not exactly sure how I would do that, but I can for sure. So Geneve, just as a high level, NSXT uses Geneve for encapsulation, where NSX for vSphere uses VXLAN for encapsulation. So they use the same interface called a VTEP for a virtual tunnel endpoint, where with VXLAN it's a VXLAN tunnel endpoint, but in this case here they swapped out the VXLAN for virtual, where it's a TEP. So I can try to dive into. I have not dove into NSXT deep enough. As a matter of fact, funny story. I had deployed NSXT manager into my environment, and I was able to add a compute manager, which basically is adding vCenter server. I added vCenter server to it, and I was able to spot a couple of ESXi hosts that were running 6.7. So I had 6.7 update 1 ESXi host deployed inside the VMware workstation. And that was working out pretty well. And I went to go add them to NSXT, and immediately it bugged out. It wouldn't work. So I did a little bit of research and found out that 6.7 update 3 was a supported release. So I upgraded all of my ESXi hosts using the vSphere Update Manager, which is in 7.0 is Lifecycle Manager. But what I ended up doing, I created a baseline. I uploaded 6.7 update 3 to the Update Manager process on vCenter Server, and then I attached a baseline to all of my hosts. And for all the hosts that were not supported, it went ahead and automatically updated patched it to a newer version of ESXi, so 6.7 update 3, and that actually worked out pretty well. So all of my compute nodes are ESXi 6.7 update 3, and I got a little bit further along in the deployment, but it still failed. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing here, hopefully in the next week or so, I've been kind of sitting down because I needed a break from VMware. I decided I'm going to upgrade vCenter Server and the PSC to 7.0, and then I'm going to, once I do that, I'm going to upgrade all of my ESXi hosts to 7.0, and then I'm going to reattempt NSXT, and go that way. So that's my goal, and then roll out NSXT, see exactly how that plays out. There's a comment on, let's talk about Palo Alto, Virtual Wire or vWire, and tap interface. The comment was, finally someone you can hear and understand, all caps. So thank you for that. And lastly, there's a comment on, or question on security, VPN, IP2, LAN to LAN, iOS to iOS router crypto maps. You can share for me file PDF. There is no PDF for that particular video. I didn't create any PDFs for that at all. So with that being said, if I have, no, trying to think, I don't think there's a PDF for that one. So that's basically it for Tech Support Thursday. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me in this video. It was actually a lot of fun. Keep the questions and comments coming. The more the merrier. With that being said, if you guys have any questions or comments or anything else, maybe you'd like to come on the channel and talk about a particular technology that you're interested in talking about, or something, a life experience that you have, and we can kind of podcast it. Fine with that as well. Either way, I want to thank everybody for their continued support and all that good stuff that goes along with that. Until next time, guys, take it easy.